So on level one during the pandemic, are you shopping at the moment? Are you doing it online? Are people delivering things to your doorstep on a motorbike? Or are you still going out? Have you been going to the bigger shopping malls, or have your shopping habits actually changed? I mean, do you think that you're not going to go to a big shopping mall again? There's some evidence emerging that the smaller shopping centres appear to be the ones doing quite well during this time. I've got to tell you, it's probably because of the parking. Nashil Chitoki is the National Asset Manager for Retail at the company Redefine Properties. Nashil, good afternoon to you. What have you found during this time? How's shopping patterns changed?
Hi, Stephen. Good afternoon to you and the viewers. So I think, what we've seen is the major change is a shift to the convenience and neighborhood shopping centers. And that's obviously driven by the work from home trend, as a lot of these centers are based in the suburbs and neighborhoods where people are working from. I think more importantly, people regarded the convenience centers as safe in respect to COVID, because one is not in an enclosed environment, you park outside, and as the name suggests, convenience in and out. So yeah, we've seen some tremendous growth in the performance of those centers.
So the smaller centres doing better than they used to do in your view then? They've actually had a lot of growth. What's happening with the bigger malls? I mean, I would imagine some of the bigger malls where you have to go and park 5 kilometres underground, go through 3 lifts just to go and find what you're looking for. I imagine they're having a difficult time.
Yes, I think it is very difficult for the super regionals, as we call them, and regional shopping centres. Their ability to actually attract footfall during COVID was hindered by, one, the lockdown regulations, curfews. However, I don't think it's all dead for them. I think what we've seen is that they've come back quite quickly as lockdown restrictions were relaxed. And the large malls still offer the kind of variety and extent of tenant mix that you just cannot replicate in a smaller type shopping center. So it's still relevant in terms of maybe the major bulk being a monthly and the big weekly spend. So we've seen foot traffic, recover from the likes of about 60% up to 90% of where they were in previous terms. As lockdown restrictions were relaxed, they became more relevant.
So for these convenience malls, I mean the smaller malls, it's really all about food, isn't it? If you don't have a convenient place to get food, then actually it's not going to work. I mean, the specialty shops that are next door for whatever, I don't know, the shop that only sells pet food, for example, is only going to do well in a time like this if there's a big mall, if there's a food outlet right next door.
Interesting. We see the success formula being a grocer which is properly sized to provide the merchandise offering for the community, a pharmacy, a few takeaways, and 1 or 2 sit-down restaurants. Next to that, you'll have a hardware shop, a pool shop, etc. That tends to be an ideal formula for it. So it's mainly driven by the grocer. However, we are seeing lately that a lot of the national fashion retailers who you'd have never considered for these types of shopping centers are now interested in is there an opportunity for us to try certain of their fashion brands in the convenience centers. So that's a real shift that has come through, and I think positive for all retail.
I've got to tell you, Nashil, I mean, pandemic or no pandemic, the most important thing for me is parking. Can I park very close to where I need to go so that I can do in and out quickly? Is it safe? Can I get the kids out of the car safely so that they can come with me? Or if they're in that kind of mood on a Sunday morning, would I actually even be able to leave them in the car for 5 minutes while I pop in to get some milk? I mean, parking for me is actually the key thing.
Yes, I would agree. I wouldn't suggest you leave your kids in the car, but I think it's about creating accessible parking. To always have a space available in front of the store cannot always be the easiest thing, but it's about creating easy access and egress points for parking that we find makes one center successful over another.
Nashil, So there are 2 kinds of shopping. There's the shopping for the stuff that you need, right? The 2 litres of milk, as you're on your way home or on your way to work or on your way home from work, or, the coffee that you need because you're now working from home. So that's something that you need. And then there's shopping for what you want. Now, the shopping for what you want are probably at the much bigger shopping malls, the specialty outlets, the sort of fashion shops. You know, one or two of the big shopping malls in South Africa are seen as sort of continental shopping centres in a way. And that shopping experience is about the way the shop looks. It can be about the way the shop smells. They've got some shop owners will have spent an absolute fortune on just all of those things, the kind of texture, the experience of shopping. But if I'm wearing a face mask, that experience is nothing like it used to be. I would really feel for those shops at this time. I think they might be in a very difficult space.
Yeah, so we've seen certain categories which are in extremely difficult space. Restaurants being one, largely influenced by sale of alcohol, curfews, and lockdowns. I think everyone knows that cinemas, in particular, have been hardest hit with Stay Kiniko now being in business rescue. But we see the health and beauty and travel stores just as hardly hit. So I think it's about how do we create sustainable models for all retailers to come in. You've seen a report released by the SA REIT Society where REITs across South Africa provided 2.6 billion rand worth of relief to retailers over COVID. And that's just in an effort to try and make sure we still see some of this as being relevant in a post-COVID environment, but how do we get retailers through this initial phase? And that's largely about where the focus is. I think creating the experience within for retailers, is just as important as it ever was, if not more now, because of the highly competitive market we're in. It's important that retailers use those aspects to create differentiation.
So they want to try and do that. I mean, food keeps coming back into it. I do wonder, though, if the food market might change over time, too. I mean, we've seen some of the big shopping chains, the retail chains, some doing it, I'm afraid to say, better than others, I would think, in terms of actually doing home deliveries in some areas. Now, not everywhere, and certainly limited for the moment, but that market is going to grow. I mean, the way that we shop is going to change in such a fundamental way.
Yes, I think the online market is what you're referring to, and in particular for grocery has had the largest growth, especially in years. I mean, a lot of studies say that the online trend has been accelerated by 3 to 5 years due to COVID. However, you know, we're still seeing the grocers wanting to roll out stores and on massive expansion drives. The online, I think, needs to complement the formal bricks and mortar that's there. We find that they start working together with each other. Grocery, as an example, people don't like choosing fresh. They want to choose the cucumber, the orange, and the tomato that they buy. They don't want someone choosing that for them. So there's still an element that works for online. Deliveries work for the staples. The concern with staples for groceries is that the margins are so low that that is difficult to make that scheme profitably. Depending on how you measure, we are online sales making up between 2 and 4% of total sales. So bricks and mortar is still the mainstay for grocers. But I think retailers and landlords need to now start saying, how do we embrace online and make sure we can facilitate and make sure that online and bricks and mortar start complementing each other?
Nashil Tutroki, I really appreciate the time. Thanks very much indeed. National Asset Manager for Retail for the company Redefine Properties.